So we have different kind of user roles, and what we want to do now is restrict certain URLs to certain user roles. So that basically that means is if they go to any of the pages, let's say for instance profile or messages, any of the things that we want, questions, we can have this limited to a specific user profile. And we could also check whether or not they have a subscription. So if they have a paying subscription, and we could check that. To do that, we need to introduce this subject called middleware. Middleware is already used in your project quite a bit, actually. So if you go to your settings file, you'll see middleware classes. Our sessions middleware, we've seen that quite a bit. The CSRF token, so the prior to actually submitting the form, this is kind of interrupting it, making sure that that's okay. Authentication, that's another one, and then messages. So we're going to make our own custom middleware, basically. Where I'm going to do it is actually in the matchmaker file folder here. So we'll do a new file, and we're just going to call it middleware.py. Okay, so in our middleware classes, we are going to have to install our own middleware, and it's pretty simple. We just go matchmaker.middleware.something. So we need to make an actual function for this middleware to work, and in this case it's actually going to be a class. So I'm going to call it check membership. Okay, so we actually need to define that because we just put it into our middleware. So let's copy that and go into, and then save your settings file. Let's open up middleware.py, and we're going to go class check membership and define process request, self and request. So every time any process is done, it's going to check this first. So it's kind of like if they're before they click a view, it's going to do this process request. This is kind of a default function for middleware, and you need to make sure that it actually is in here. Otherwise, it's not going to work out too well. So make sure that you have process request. Otherwise, middleware will not work. Is basically what I just said. There's a couple things. So first off, we want to check is if the request.user is authenticated. If not, we'll just hit pass. So this is now only going to run something if the request user is authenticated. So if they're logged in, it's going to run something for us. And this is just a simple little, basically Django function. It's not really that difficult. Now that we have this part handled, we can do a whole lot of stuff with it. So I'm just going to do something very simple so you can kind of see it in action. I'm going to use the messages framework. Import it first. So from django.contrib import messages. And if the user is authenticated, we'll do messages.success. And the request user is logged in. Now you can use this messages framework anywhere. I'm just kind of showing you that it's going to work for us. So if I'm also going to do it if it's not, for now we'll put another message and we'll call it error, and we'll say user is not logged in, just so we can kind of see this in action. That's pretty much it. So we can see the middleware working, and then we can start building on top of that. So let's close the server here. We'll do python manage.py, sync the database. It's not completely necessary, but sometimes you need to do that to make sure that everything's working correctly, and also restarting the server is important as well. So I have the server running, and now if I go in here, an error occurred. An error error occurred. So let's see what's going on. Oh, let's spell Django correctly. Okay, save that. Go back in here. We'll do a little refresh. The messages framework is showing user is logged in. So if I log out, user is not logged in. Log in. User is logged in. I mean, it's showing the last one as well, but as you notice, it's showing the last two messages, which is okay. Here we go. So now that we have that working, we can run other things here. But we talked about doing a specific type of URL. So let's actually define these URLs. So we'll go URLs equals to reverse of URL for URL in settings dot subscription required URLs. Notice that I have the settings in here, so we want to actually go and import settings. So from Django.conf import settings, lowercase settings, of course. Now what's going on here? Reverse, we actually need that spelled correctly. And we will also need to import reverse. So from Django.core URL resolvers import reverse. So reverse is a cool little function that gets the reverse for a URL name. So if we put name equals to questions, if we put that into reverse, it would give us that specific URL. So again, if you put any URL name here, so URL name, it would then give you the full path to that URL. Makes it very simple and easy to do then. It gives us, this, which is pretty cool. So now that I've set this, basically what I'm doing here is I want in my settings, I want to have the subscription required URLs. I don't want to have all of my settings in like views or middleware. It's actually it's better practice to have your settings within your settings file. So we're going to define this subscription required URLs into our local, and we will just do, let's just do questions. So we're just going to use that one URL, questions, right? So we'll use this one down here. So then when we go to questions, it's going to require a subscription for our URL to actually use that in there. Now to do this, we will do a few things. We'll go if request.path in URLs. So if the request path that we're going to is in this list, because it's iterating through this list right here, and then it's going to have all the different URLs. So if it's in there, if the requested path is in there, then I'm going to just say subscription required. All right, and I'm actually going to comment out the success one because we don't really need that anymore because we know that they're logged in. That's okay. So if the request path is in the URLs, then we're going to say subscription required. All right, now let's go back in here, do a refresh, and now if we do refresh a couple times, we're not going to see users logged in because we commented it out. So if we go into questions or improve matches, we see subscription required. So it's actually working. So if we go into back into the profile, into improve matches, it's now showing us that the subscription is required. Very, very simple stuff. So now we could actually write a full-on function that's going to check our model here. So in our profiles model, we have our user role. So if we get the roles, we would want it to be one of these things, right? So like one of the choices here. And let's do that now. So back into our middleware, we'll do request.user.user role. And we'll just say role equals that. And we'll do that, do some string substitution here. So basically I'm going to get the user role and I'm going to say subscription required for some user role. Let's do a refresh. Now it says staff. So of course, we could do if role equals to staff, then say subscription is good. You are staff. Okay, so let's save that, do a refresh. Oh, that's not working, so let's actually try and actually turn role into string. And there it goes, it works just fine. It's probably because before it was giving us maybe the Unicode for it. Just turning it into a string and then comparing it to a string will ensure that it is a string. So now that we have if the user role is staff, then we have some success here. That's pretty good. But what if it's like, what if we want it to be premium? So not equal to premium. Then we'll, if it's not equal to that, we'll change our message here. So let's get rid of this whole thing and say you need to upgrade your membership to see that. Okay, so if this statement, in order for it to be true, we want to send them to a different page. So we'll go from Django.shortcuts, import HTTP response redirect, copy that, go underneath the message, we'll go return HTTP response redirect, and we're going to take them just to the home page. So let's save it. Let's go back into Chrome, do a little refresh here, and it takes me elsewhere, and then it shows me the message, you need to upgrade your membership to see that. We can change it back to if it's not equal to staff. So now we have a pretty simple way to check whether or not a user's role actually works for any given page. Now you could do the opposite of this, and if it's not in request.path URLs, so if it's not in those default URLs that we set, then you could run that. It would be the exact opposite. So the URLs then would be this right here, would be actual URLs that like you don't need a subscription to see. So that's kind of where that would be if you did that not. And we can improve this to actually check our subscription against what's in Stripe. We will have to still set some things before we could do that, but it's kind of useful. It's kind of cool, and it's something that you should play around with. This is, you have to have the process request in there for your middleware. That's just a Django requirement to actually run this, because that's what it looks for. So just kind of play around, see what you could do, see what you can come up with. Otherwise, we'll actually assign some values to Stripe or from Stripe to our user, and then be able to really check if their membership is active or not, like active as in they're currently paid up. So we will do that soon. All right, see you guys soon.